I don't know who seconded that.
Me, Kenny Each.
Ken, thank you, Ken. So all in favor of approval, say aye or raise your
Aye.
hand so I can see you. Very good. Okay, it's unanimous. I believe everyone has approved the meetings, and we'll move along. Staff, is there any communications that we need to address?
Well, we do need to welcome a new Planning Commission member, Dr. Benson, and he's already been sworn in, so he's ready to go. And perhaps you may want to hear a little bit from Mr. Benson, and I'll let him speak and introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Robert Besson. Dr. Robert Besson. I've lived in North Miami pretty much since 1974-5 when I came down here from New York City, and raised my children in Dade County. Attended University of Miami undergraduate as well as graduate in medicine, and then completed my residencies up in New Jersey as well as down here at Mount Sinai in internal medicine. I have a practice now in Aventura. I practice internal medicine.
Very good. Doctor, thank you, and welcome aboard again. And
thank you very much for having me.
We look forward to your input and your service to the board.
Thank you.
All right. Any other communications, Ms. Love or Mr. Held? Do you have any communications? Do you need to read anything into the record regarding our?
That's fine. I can do it now.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, please.
The North Miami City Council has adopted by resolution virtual meeting procedures for the conduct of public hearings and quasi-judicial proceedings during the coronavirus pandemic and other public emergencies. They provide, and as stated in the public notice for this meeting, members of the public are invited to attend the virtual public hearing and provide oral or written comments on the matter. Comments, which must include your full name and address, may be provided in advance of the hearing via telephone at 305-895-9803 or by sending an email to publiccomment@northmiamifl.gov. Comments received by 10 a.m. December 1, 2020 will be read into the record during the hearing. Comments received after the deadline will become part of the record, but will not be read during the hearing. This meeting satisfies quorum with the requisite number of board members attending the meeting in City Hall. Public attendance will remain virtual as the conditions of the pandemic emergency continue to require. The procedure for each quasi-judicial item is also governed by Section 3-303 of Chapter 29 of the Land Development Regulations. After reading the title of the item, board or commission members will disclose any ex parte communications or investigations. Staff and the applicant's representatives will be sworn. Staff will make a presentation. Then the applicant or his or her representative will make a presentation, including witnesses, if any. The commission or staff may ask questions of the applicant or witnesses. Staff will then read public comments submitted by the deadline previously noticed and stated, and announce the opportunity for persons viewing the meeting to make live comments to the commission. Persons raising their hands within 1 minute following the announcement of the opening of the public hearing will be called upon by the meeting chair. Each person will be sworn and be given 2 minutes to state their name and address and make their comments. Cross-examination is allowed by staff, the applicant, and the commission. The public hearing will then be closed, and the commission will then deliberate the matter and reach a decision, which may include approval with conditions, denial, or continuance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Help. This is a little bit of a change in the procedure, I believe, from the last time. I want to make sure that we're clear on that. Anyone from the public who is on will notify us either by raising a hand, and at that time they will be sworn in if they want to address the issue at hand. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
So at the beginning of the public portion of the agenda that we are addressing, when it's time for the public input, we will then call upon the person who is wants to speak first, and then they will be sworn in to address that, and they will be given the one time only to speak. We're going to set a time limit, as is normal, of 2 minutes for public input into the whatever item they wish to address. Again, the public will have 2 minutes per person to address the issue. Okay, I think we're hopefully clear on that. Is there any continued public hearing that staff needs to bring to us, notify us of?
No, sir.
Very good, thank you very much. Okay, so at this time, we'll go ahead and start the public hearing portion. First item up will be PC 1221. This is an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, providing for a text amendment to chapter 29 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances by amending Article 5, Development Standards, to create a new section 5-114 entitled Septic Tanks, to prohibit the installation of tanks and require connection to the city's sanitary sewer system, providing for repeal, conflicts, severability, correction of scrivener's errors, codification, and for an effective date. May we have staff report, please?
Yes. Marlene's getting the PowerPoint up on the screen. Very good. What we're going to do here is, as indicated in our staff report, we currently have a number of properties that are located in the city that we suspect some of them are on septic, some we definitely know are on septic. Can you see our PowerPoint? Can you see the screen?
No, not yet.
No.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, perfect. And we did a study back in, I believe, 2019, that we attempted, after we heard from Miami-Dade County that they were struggling with septic systems, identifying septic systems that are located in the county. And that was all driven from the Biscayne Bay, from the blue-green algae blooms that has been occurring. We held we did a study that tried to attempt to...
Vous avez la vini? Vous avez la vini là?
Sorry, Ms. Joseph, your mic is not muted.
Okay. My name is...
No.
It's not time for anyone to speak right now. It is time for staff presentation first, please. And then you'll get a chance to hear shortly. So one of the things that the study attempted to do was to identify where we had septic systems in the city. It was rather challenging for a number of reasons, everything from data at the DOH level to data at the county level through WASD, who actually does all of the wastewater, handles all the wastewater facilities in the county. So we came up with in doing this study, we looked at it in comparison to the impact of sea level rise on these septic systems, assuming that there were some in the city. So the study determined that over the last 20 years, the water table has actually risen 1.5 feet over the 20-year planning period. So many of the septic systems that were permitted back years ago are periodically flooded. This photograph that you see is actually here in the city. And it is that area that are on septics. And so it's not the tank so much as the drain field, so that when it becomes flooded, all the effluent that's stored in the drain field is actually distributed through the floodwaters. So it becomes more than just the fact that you're on an old system. With the flooding and the increased flooding that we see during king tides and some of this very heavy rainfall that we've seen, there's been a lot of places in the city that are seeing flooding, and they are on septic tanks. So Florida statute actually requires that if you are not on a septic system that meets a certain standard, you have to connect. And you have to connect within 90 days of being notified of the jurisdiction, by the jurisdiction, that there is sanitary sewer lines adjacent to your property. So it requires 90 days to connect. It allows, if you are on one of these advanced treatment program types of facility, it allows you 365 days, but that would have required a permit, which should have shown up in DOH's records, or at least in Miami-Dade records. So we know that none of the systems here meet that criteria. So Florida statute also requires or allows for exemptions from that, from the applicant or from the property owner. And so we needed to create a new section in the LDRs to reflect this requirement. This is actually already in another section of the Code of Ordinances, but it's slightly different because it allows the community planning director to allow new systems to be in the city. We are fully sewered here in the city. I think it's like over 90%. There's sewer lines adjacent to the development. Many times it is the cost of connection that is challenging for property owners. As I noted in my staff report, the county says it averages about $10,000 to connect to, which means not just the connection fee to connect to the line, but it also includes hiring someone to trench, to lay the lines that run from that, to replumb your house, and then to abandon the tank because there's special requirements by statute for how the tank is abandoned. But it never addresses the drain fields. So we'll still have some of those issues even, once they connect. So one of the things in recognizing that cost is the city is pursuing grants. The Community Redevelopment Agency is putting forward some money that could potentially help offset the connections to the system. Next slide. All right. So what you have before you does two things. One, it meets Florida statute that says you need to connect. We need to get folks off of these septic systems. A lot of flooding complaints that around, I think it was 121st, 123rd, that, there's flooding in that direction, and all the homes in Biscayne Park surrounding the city are also on septic. So dealing with flooding is one issue, but more so trying to get rid of the systems that exist in the city is going to be critical for us. While we can't control what happens in other municipalities and in the Miami-Dade unincorporated, we certainly can do so here in our city. And so recognizing the cost, as I said, we do have that. We are setting up a program for funding that will help folks. And right now, this item before you will next go to Planning Commission in City Council in January. And then in February, we'll go to second reading and adoption. So sometime before the end of February, it will become effective. And part of that process during that time will be to establish the funding program. And they'll work out all the details for qualifications, how much money is given. But we really needed to get this on the books. So with that, that's the end of staff's presentation.
Okay, very good, Ms. Love. Thank you very much. Before we open up the public hearing, was there any additional questions from staff before we get into hearing the public input portion of this item? Anybody?
Any questions from the commission?
Question from staff? Yes. Go ahead. Any quick questions from staff?
For staff, you mean?
For staff from the planning
Yes.
commission. I'm sorry. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing portion of this. At this point, anyone wishing to address this item, I need to have you raise your hand or wave at me that I'm looking at all the different video inputs here.
I do not see how to
Some of the
raise.
mics are muted. So if anyone is mics open, can somebody signify that they want to?
I would like to speak, but I don't see how to raise my hand.
Who's that talking?
My name is Eileen.
Did you wish to speak on this item?
Yes, I
Did you
do.
wish to speak on this item?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, Eileen, now I see your name. Your mic is open. Eileen, this is not a quasi judicial item, so I'll go ahead and have you speak. Before you do, Eileen, I must have your full name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Eileen Bicaba. I'm at 13350 Northeast 3rd Court. And I am one of those people you're discussing on the septic system. We recently had the lines run on our street, and I have looked into putting it in. The lines are run way too high for the properties, and for the few property owners on the street that have put it in, they had to go through extreme cost and extreme problems in order to put the system in because the lines were put too high. And my plumber have asked me to contact the city on this very issue. That's number one concern. Number two concern is the city's septic system is a mess. All right. You cannot.
Mr. Hubbard, you're breaking up a little bit.
You cannot force people to be on a system that's defective. You first have to fix your issues first before you force people, because it is no better than what we are on right now. When we have neighbors that are backing up into their houses, only a few weeks ago, every time the water level rises or you have a storm, people are having problems with the septic system backing up in their houses. And I don't have that problem on the septic tank. So my issue is, why do I want a piece of that? You know, I have enough problems with flooding on my street without then having septic, other people's sewage backing up in my home. You know, I mean, you are talking here about forcing people to be on a system that have issues, and you cannot deny these issues. You know, at 133 and Memorial, only a few weeks ago, there was sewage in the streets. There is more sewage contamination from the city's defective system than from these septic tank systems. You know, I mean, why should I be forced to be on a system and then have people sewage backing up in my home? You have to solve these issues first. You cannot force people to be on a system that has issues like this.
And I believe that one of the things that will happen first, and thank you for that, that's very important information to share, do appreciate that, is that it will be once the city knows about you. So I believe they're going to have to deal with some of their own issues first before they'll send that out. So there's a little while before it even becomes effective, number one. And number two, before they will send those letters out to the community. So we do appreciate you sharing that concern with us, Mr. Cox.
But ma'am, it should be contingent upon them fixing it first. It should be contingent. It shouldn't be, it's going to be a while and we send the letters out and then the stuff isn't fixed and we are forced to be on the system.
Great point. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Eileen. Do we have any other members of the public that want to address this issue? I see Amoni Jean. Is it pronounced Amon or Amoni?
Amion.
Amion, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Amion, go ahead. Please state your full name and address, if you could, please.
My name is Amion Jean. I live at 465 Northeast 125th Street. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate the issues that Eileen had mentioned earlier with the city lines. We recently had an incident last week where sewage did, in fact, back up into our homes. And we were forced to call the city at nearly 10 o'clock at night to snake the pump, snake the line, so that way we could be able to use water and flush and do all the things that we should be able to do normally. So we do feel that the city plumbing is an issue as well in our area.
Thank you, Ms. Jean. Anyone else wanting to speak on this item? Anyone else wanting to address the septic tank issue? I'm looking. Anyone raise their hand? Ms. Joseph, go ahead and unmute your mic. Ms. Joseph, we need you to unmute your mic, please. Ms. Joseph, you need to unmute your mic. We cannot hear you.
I'll go ahead and take it. All right, go ahead and do that for her.
All right.
I think you're unmuted.
No, still mute.
Can you do that, Marlene?
That option. Let's try again.
Ms. Joseph, if you can hear us, we can't hear you yet. You need to unmute your mic. There we go. Now we can hear you. Go ahead and what we need you to do first is to give your name and address, please.
Okay, my name is Marie. My name is Marie Joseph. I'm living by 485 Northeast, 126th Street, Miami, Florida, 33161.
Okay. And you're addressing the septic tank, correct?
Okay. What do you say?
This is addressing the septic tank issue, correct?
My address is 485 by the park, around the park. 485 Northeast, 126th Street.
Yes, I have that.
Not Miami,
What I'm asking you-
Florida, 331. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
My concern, I didn't receive no letters. I didn't receive no letters. Yes.
Est-ce que on va parler de item septic non? Septic non?
Non, je ne sais pas tout. Moi, même pas, non, c'est.
C'est pas ça, il a parlé de l'autre bagage.
Non, non, moi, je ne parler parce que l'aide de l'eau a venu et la toilette a mal pour pomper. Là, c'est pomper qu'on est assez pour le monde pour venir passer au cercle.
Je vais juste besoin de vérifier c'est même item là où tu as parlé. Si tu
non.
Répéter ça en anglais pour recorder information ça.
Okay. I'm telling my concern, I've been living for almost 25 years for this area. By the park, I never had problem. But now from the water, I don't know if they have to drain from the water from the street because they never touch it, because when the water came sometime it come in dirty, even for the zinc, for the toilet issue. When you have to flush, you can see all the area all coming inside the toilet. That's mean they have to rewind the outside from the street, from the park. They need to clean all this area first. But and also here they're going to build the house, but my grandkids, they come into my house, they play on the park. I don't think so. It will be a issue problem for the kids to play because this area was so quiet. Before the place they have the building, it was a problem because people smoking, people coming talking loud, and they have issue problem for that. All the time they have to talking to them. I don't want the building to making problem by the area because this area was quiet. I don't want no problem.
Thank you. Ms. Joseph, we were talking about the septic tank issues. If there's nothing else involving the septic tank issues, we're going to go ahead and move along. All right. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the septic tank issue? This item. Okay. All right. So before I move, I want to go ahead and close the public hearing. I need to check the chat room real quick, if you don't mind.
There was someone in the chat that made a comment, sir.
Yeah, I'm looking at the one here is from Vessel Design. The comment was, hello, I'm a resident at 450 Northeast 126th Street. We've also had the city come flush the sewer system on our block because it has backed up into our home. That was the comment.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And you agree.
Someone's mic open, is someone talking? And the other one we heard from Eileen earlier, she also added a message in the chat room, and I believe, Marlene, you also got the communications, correct?
For the record, we did not receive any prior comments for this item.
I do have a message in the chat room that was from Eileen, but I believe she addressed that. It was, my name is Eileen Bacaba. My property is on a septic tank. The city has a lot of problems with the septic tank system. You should not force people to be on a defective system. Only a few weeks ago, the system was backed up in the street. My neighbor could not take showers because of backup with the system. I had a plumber look at the possibility of connection. The system was put into a high, making it more costly to connect. You need to fix the issue before doing something like this. That was a comment from Eileen. And then I believe that was the last comment I had regarding.
There are a couple more, sir, as you scroll on down into the chat.
Okay, I see the Vessel Design to everyone. Again, let's see here. Hold on, staff. That was Vessel Design. Again, I believe I said before, and I'll repeat it again. Hello, I'm a resident of 450 Northeast 126th Street. We have also had the city come flush the sewer system on our block because it has backed up into our home. The city ran a camera into the system and showed that it's full of roots from the cracked old cast iron pipes. Okay, so that was the...
Vessel Design also added a comment. The city ran a camera into the system and it showed that it is full of roots from the cracked old cast iron pipes.
Right. Okay. Now, I'm wondering, staff, if in fact some of these problems could be the connection from the house to the sewer line itself, which again is not a city problem. Perhaps it is the residence line, which they are fully responsible for, that they have trees in the backyard and the roots grow into the line. And unfortunately, that is not a city problem. That is the property owner's problem. If I could have staff pretty much confirm what I'm I'm stating?
We don't know, sir. That's sort of we will definitely be passing these comments along to Public Works to share with them the concerns that were shared with us. We just need to put this on the books because of Florida statute requirements.
Yes.
So we'll definitely be passing this along. These concerns, which are all really good, comments, we'll definitely be passing this along to Public Works.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Is there any other questions regarding septic tank? If not, I'm going ahead and close the public hearing
Can
portion
I
of
make
this
one
item.
more comment, please, concerning that last comment? In terms of having sewage, this is Eileen Becaver again. In terms of having it be, I am, as I
Who's
said,
speaking, please?
Eileen Becaver.
Eileen?
Speaking, we need you to identify yourself, please. Name and address.
Eileen Becaver, 13350 Northeast 3rd Court. In terms of you wondering if it's part, I'm sure there are some systems where it's the owner's issue, but I can tell you that during the last storm, especially during storms, is when I hear and I see most of these issues from neighbors. They've shown me videos and stuff, and I personally can tell you on my own property, although I'm not connected, the connection line is in front of my house. The cap came off and I had to call the city to put a new one on. I'm not connected to it at all, but it was full all the way to the top and running over. And if I was connected to it, where would my sewage go? It's already backed up all the way back there. The only place it would have is the backup right up into my house. So that's not a connection or a personal issue. There is definitely a problem with backup, especially in low-lying areas and especially in storms. So you can't, when I as a resident have problems with flooding during these periods, I don't need a backup of sewage at the same time.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Placava. We'll definitely be passing this along to Public Works.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to, the public hearing on this first item, PC 1221 is now closed. I'm at this point going to go ahead and open up a discussion with the Planning Commission members. Anyone have any comments? I'll start with, I'm looking at the top of my screen here. Dr. Besson, do you have anything you want to address?
Yes. Do we know what the height of the lines are in comparison to the lowest point in the homes in the area? In other words, what is the difference? The downslope drainage is obviously, if the lines were put in at a certain point higher than the base of their systems, well, it's going to backflow into the house at some point. Do we have any information about that?
No, sir. They're all done. All the lines have been laid during different periods of time, from my understanding. So unfortunately, we don't have anybody from Public Works that can answer your question, and I'm not the city engineer. So unfortunately, I can't answer that question for you, sir.
Okay. How would we acquire that information, and how, if I'm permitted to do so?
Well, staff will definitely be reaching out to Public Works to share with them these, the comments that we're receiving today. And we can certainly pass along your requests to, for that type of information. I think it may be quite large, and maybe it might be best to have it through a conversation that you may want to. We may connect you with someone from Public Works who could actually talk to you a little bit more about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Very good. Okay, Mr. H, do you have any comments, sir?
Yes, you do. That whole area, you, Mr. Ernest, you addressed me, did you not?
Yes, do you have a comment on this item, sir?
Yes, I do. That whole area, Griffin, had numerous backups over the last few years. I know the city was working on Griffin, just south of 135th Street, with the sewer system. And I think it's incumbent upon us that before any property owner is ordered to go into the sewer system, that we make sure that it's been upgraded and that it's going to be workable. I hate like hell to have somebody, we order an individual that owns a home there for a number of years to go into the city sewer system, and the next thing you know, they have a backup. I know that it has to be done. It's we should be on this. The city of North Miami has been on the sewer system. I think we're one of the first cities in the county to go all sewers. I think that happened back in the late 50s, early 60s. I know the Keys recently did the same thing. All of the Keys are now on the sewer system, and for the sake of the environment, we definitely have to do it. And I just would make sure that before somebody is ordered to change out and go through the expenses, that we have our sewer system upgraded and do it. But I'm in favor of doing this ordinance. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Tonkin?
Yeah, so the septic systems have to be stopped. It's just a fact of the matter. It's just a reality of the water table. And it's also a fact that we need to improve the infrastructure of the sewage. In fact, we need to fix the whole thing. So, I mean, it's an inevitable reality that the septic has to stop, and we have to, yes, improve the sewer system. But the more urgent matter is the resolution of the septic systems, because once we have flooding in a neighborhood with ruptured septic systems, it becomes a very dangerous cholera disease type situation very quickly in stagnant water. And that's the reality that's going to be more and more apparent moving forward through time. So, you can have the argument, oh, I don't want to be I really question if in that neighborhood there's actually sewage coming up through the drains and whatever. I think in a couple of very low-lying houses have had that problem. Again, some of those really low-lying houses are going to have to be abandoned as repetitive loss properties. That's another issue that I mean, I've been saying for years in our city, we're in a slow-moving crisis. And this is sort of like the beginning inklings and indications of the crisis we're going to have moving forward. It'll be a different meeting if you've got 10,000 people that are now homeless because the houses are flooded. Right now, we're talking about, a proactive issue about taking people off of septic, putting them on sewer, improving the sewer. I was under the impression that there was a moratorium on connecting more houses to the sewer right now because the system is maxed out both in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and that's why they've stopped new construction in Fort Lauderdale. And I know our system is maxing out. It's really the kind of the fresh water and the poop is the big story of the future of our city and what we need to resolve. But I mean, just my opinion is we have to stop the septic, and then the sewer is going to have to be fixed, and that's one of the big infrastructure problems of our upcoming 5 and 10 years from now. But the water table that's raised, the foot and a half, I think it is, you were saying, in the last 20 years, so that the curve on that is not a straight line. It's an exponentially raising curve. So the septic has to be abandoned in the immediate. And the absolute reality over all of this is a simple word. It's gravity. And single family homes will not have the gravity anymore to be part of the current septic sewage system. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tonkin. Mr. McDermott, sir, you have the floor. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes. Two questions for staff. First off, I know it was mentioned that the CRA was going to be providing some sort of grant mechanism for these homeowners to connect to the sewer system. Do we have any idea, does staff have any idea of how much that grant's going to be?
Not really, sir. I know they're working on it. It's a good, good little chunk of change, from my understanding. It definitely, that's not going to be the only source of funding. We're also looking at other types of grant funding through various things, DEP, for example. And so there are other grant fundings that we will be pursuing. So at this point in time, I don't have the specifics from that number. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that question for you, sir.
Okay, the second question is, are we time certain on this particular ordinance? Is there a time frame in which we have to pass it or move it along? There seems to be a lot of questions in regards to this. Is there something that perhaps we can table this and answer some of the questions and find out some more information? Or is this something?
No, it's already a law. It's already a law in the books, and the statute already requires that. Florida statute automatically requires that.
Right.
What we were trying to do is ameliorate it. It's already existing in the Code of Ordinances as well, that requirement, because it matches up with Florida statute. Right. And they say that you have 90, once you are notified of availability, a property owner has 90 days to connect. So there isn't like, okay, well, you have to do this in 120 days. It should have already been occurring. It's already in statute and already in our Code of Ordinances. It's just not, it's not in our LDRs where it actually belongs as well.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Held, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, so I don't have specific experience with sewage lines, but in Miami Beach, we had wastewater lines that had backflow preventer valves. And I did a quick search online, and that those are available in this kind of situation where there's a gravity flow fluctuation and difference in levels. I'm sure if we had an engineer here, they would tell us that there is a solution for this that can be built into the individual connection lines dealing with backflow preventers, preventer valves. So I don't think it's something that you should hold up the ordinance for. If we have questions, we can make that part of the recommendation that this be explored before the city commission adopts the ordinance.
Or my recommendation is it is conditioned on when those letters are sent out. Is that I think that's the trigger. That's the trigger mechanism is when the city sends out those notification letters. And so with all of these issues that are being raised, we really appreciate the comments that we're receiving so that I can share it. And then we'll also bring forward the idea of backflow preventers and just have that conversation with Public Works. So I do agree with you, Mr. Held. It shouldn't be held up because it's already on Florida statutes. It's already a requirement that has to be done. I think how we do it and the timing and how we help folks and our infrastructure, all of those upgrades are extremely expensive. And I know that Public Works is working through funding and all those other types of things. And we'll definitely share all of this with Public Works and have conversations with them afterwards as well.
If I may, I think what we're getting a sense of here is that there's a big concern that the city's pushing this forward without assuring those that would have to make the changeover that they would have adequate means of being able to pay for this operation and to be able in a timely manner to remediate the problems regarding their septic tanks. I think that's what's kind of getting lost in the message of something that has to be done, no doubt has to be done. But I think there's still a lot of people that don't understand this. And staff, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but Public Works pretty much needs to step up and get a little bit more involved with how they address this publicly and make it a little bit more known and a little bit more education toward the public with regards to how this can be carried forth, because it's something that has to be done. We've been educated on it, but a lot of people have not, and I don't think there's a clear understanding. As Mike indicated, I don't want to hold this up, and I do want to move this forward. But again, somehow a message needs to get put forward to Public Works that this doesn't give them a carte blanche to go ahead and start expecting remediation to be done right away. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me on that. Mike?
Yeah, I agree. Debbie, what is, you say that the letter that goes out is the trigger. What is the trigger that sends those letters out? Is it the passage of what we're dealing with here today, or is it a whole separate issue? Because we don't want the letters to go out without, I think, the individuals who are going to be affected to understand exactly what they have to deal with and what resources are available to them.
Right, and that will be a conversation that will continue on for the implementation portion of this project and how it gets implemented. The concern that I'm hearing will definitely be part of the implementation conversation that we have with Public Works and how they plan to do this. And our recommendation, what you move forward recommendation-wise, will go to City Council. And we'll certainly be sharing the public comments with Council. And we hope folks that are here will also be attending the City Council meeting in, I believe it's January 20th, I think it is, to also share their concerns. But in the meantime, we'll definitely be having those conversations with Public Works for sure.
Okay, very good.
Okay, question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead,
Council. Mike. Yeah, just a question to Council. Gary, what is your recommendation to pass this forward, but still reserve, these letters that are going to be forthcoming? Can we pass this with the covenant or reservation or what have you, that there be a separate mechanism to be discussed to that would trigger the requirement of the 90-day installation? How would we, it appears that everybody wants to pass this, but we don't want to get into some bureaucratic situation where somebody says, okay, well, this is the way it's going to be. We're going to send out the letters, and there be no concern for the homeowners or their resources.
No, I understand. So, Mr. McDermott, as you know, and the Planning Commission knows, you do not adopt ordinances. You recommend the adoption of ordinances. Right. So, by your action today, there's no force of law that takes effect. So, if you believe that additional criteria should be used before the trigger of sending out a notice, I believe that should be part of your recommendation to the City Council, that it either be part of policy or possibly added to the ordinance, though I don't know what criteria you could develop certainly not here, as we sit, that would be appropriate for ordinance language. But at a minimum, you can make a recommendation that it should be adopted because we have to make that transition from septic tanks to sewage lines. But in addition, that staff and the city council be asked to adopt, along with the engineering department, adopt the appropriate triggers that address the issues that are raised regarding, backflow and sewage backup, and that be resolved before people are actually required to connect to a system that may have problems.
Right.
Now we've come up with a laundry list, though. Unfortunately, that kind of muddled the process, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm sure staff can summarize the comments that have been made today and make that part of their staff report to the commission and consult with the engineering staff before that hearing.
Okay, then I defer to you, sir, if you could help us with formulating some language, perhaps here, as to how we can get this along with the adoption of this ordinance, that this information get passed along to the city council in a few brief words, other than what we were trying to state right now.
Well, certainly it's a recommendation of approval of the ordinance, but in addition, that staff present to the commission, along with advice from the engineering department, how to resolve the issues that have been raised, including, I think there were 2 or 3 main ones: the backup of sewage lines into the house, either from an individual line or the adjacent sewage line, for multiple reasons. One is change in elevation or difference in elevation, or problems with the sewage system.
Can we also lengthen the duration from 90 days? Can we make a recommendation to give the residents more time?
No, sir, that is absolute. That's a mandate in Florida statute. But you'll see in the ordinance also recognize that there is an exemption to that 90-day deadline that can be granted to an applicant, not to us, but the applicant can apply to DOH for that extension, but there's no extension of the 90 days outside of that extension from DOH. Yeah.
Right, Debbie? Florida Department of Health.
The Florida Department of Health. Right now, it's a joint effort between DOH, Florida Department of Health, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. The governor, they changed the statute that now it's going to be handled by Florida DEP, and they're working jointly now in dealing with septic systems.
Mr. Chair, I tried to come up with a good summary.
Yeah. I gather that the state eventually, should the city not take any action, would step in. Can I assume that we could be held responsible by the state if we don't follow through with this?
Well, it's a law on the books. I can't answer that question. That's above my pay grade in that response.
Right.
Florida statute already requires. What we were trying to do is to recognize the extension that's allowed, and also recognize that we're going to try to help homeowners through grants to offset the connection cost. So it's already a requirement by Florida statute.
All right, very good. Any other comment? Mr. Clark, I don't see you, and I see your mic is muted. Do you have any?
My questions have been answered.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark. I'm sorry.
I said, no, I'm fine. My question has been answered.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, hearing no other comments from staff, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for approval from anyone on the planning commission.
Well, I'll move together with, councils. I think council is creating some language, council, are you, in reference to what we're concerned about, in reference to working.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes. Is that true, Mr. H?
Who's in here?
Mr. H? Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, now we do.
I'll make a motion that we approve with that one proviso that the interest. I'm sorry? I make a motion that we approve, but with that one proviso that the infrastructure is going to be able to support it. The city infrastructure has to be able to support the improvements that we're demanding on these people. If not, then we're penalizing them. So I'll make that motion with that proviso in there that I support the motion, but with the proviso that the infrastructure be improved to support what we're asking. Otherwise, it's a draconian method. It's a draconian act.
Mr. Held, didn't you come up with some language, Mr. Held?
Yeah, I was suggesting that there actually be reference to the various categories of comments that were raised by the people who spoke, such as the backup of sewage and the possible need to address individual lines as well as system deficiencies before the notice provisions are triggered.
Exactly.
Mr. H, you agree with that? I see you shaking your
I
head.
definitely do. Yes. I'll make the motion that we approve with those provisos in there. Otherwise, like I say, it's a draconian method and that would be absolutely foolhardy to go through with something that's going to penalize people when we're saying we're going to improve the system. And in fact, we're actually penalizing them. And all of a sudden the wastewater and sewage backs up into the house. That would be preposterous. Yes, I'll approve it with that, with the council just addressed or just added.
Okay. All right. I'll second it.
All right.
I'll
Michael McDermott seconds the motion. All of those in favor of moving this item on with the provisions added to it, and I trust staff will make that public or at least known to us and to Public Works Department, Mr. Held, so that we do have that in writing and on record. Mr. Tonkin, I see your hand.
I was just going to say that perhaps the language should reflect an intention rather than a commitment, because we can't make a commitment without getting a bond, pretty much. We got to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to make that commitment. So an intention is one thing, a commitment's another. That's all.
Okay, I go along with the language on intention, Mr. L. That's fine with you within the legal parameters that you would need?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so the motion's been put forward. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand so I can get the vote. Mr. McDermott, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Clark? Mr. Clark?
Aye. Yes.
Aye. Mr. H? Aye. Mr. Tompkin? Aye. Dr. Bason?
Yes.
Aye.
And myself, Chairman Ernst, votes yes. So the ordinance passes 7-0 to be moved on to the City Council. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you for those who joined us with their input on this item. We thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the second item of the day. PC 12-22, a resolution of the mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, approving an application for a conditional use permit and substantially the attached form for proposed mixed-use development, including a 7-story, 29-unit multi-family apartment building and a 460 square foot retail space on retail properties located at 470 Northeast 126th Street and 475 Northeast 125th Street, specifically identified with Miami-Dade County Folio numbers 06-2230-025-0230 and 06-2230-025-0460, and totaling 0.41 acres in accordance with Article 3, Division 4, Sections 3-402 through 3-407. Article 4, Division 2, Sections 4-202 and Sections 203, parentheses B. Article 4, Division 3, Sections 4-302, parentheses B, Sections 4-305, and Sections 4-306 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinance, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. May we have, first of all, before staff reports, do we have any commission members that need to do any disclosures regarding this item? Hearing none, Mr. Hill, I see none or hear none. May we go ahead and have staff report, please? Again, this is a quasi-judicial proceedings, and we will ask for those who want to comment on this will have to be sworn in prior to them speaking.
Great.
Anything you add,
we should have staff sworn in before they speak, and also whoever's going to be part of the applicant presentation team.
Okay, very good.
Let's get sworn in.
Let's go ahead and have them sworn in.
Debbie, do you know who's going to be making the presentation by the applicant?
Yes, Marlene has the speaker.
One moment, please. Okay, the list says we have Gabriel Bono, Florencia Pia Ciarini, and Carmen Diaz. If you can unmute yourselves, and Debbie Love as well, please raise your right hand. I'm going to read this statement, and we just need you to say "I do" if you agree. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Is Carmen or Florencia there?
We're together.
For the record, my name is Debbie Love. I'm the city planner for the city of North Miami and then with Community Planning and Development Department. And before you today is a request for a conditional use permit for a development that utilizes 2 commercially zoned properties as the title indicated. One is on 125th Street and it runs the property then behind that at, on 126th Street. It is, when the parcels are, the entire area, the parcels are actually zoned C3 commercial. They are designated on our future land use map as a central business district. As you can see on this map that's in front of you, 922, actually, State Road 922 is actually 125th Street. All the area in pink that you see is all the C3 zoning. Behind that is all single family 2 parcels of land. These properties, this commercial zone, are located both within the neighborhood redevelopment overlay district, as well as the North 125th Street Planned Corridor Development Overlay District, which is there somebody's mic There's a little bit of noise going. And in C3 currently, in the C3 zoning, there are no residential development allowed. However, because they are in the neighborhood redevelopment overlay district, along with the planned corridor development district, it allows them to include residential in, as a matter of fact, it requires them to include residential in their properties. They're required to do 3 uses, one of which has to be residential. The allowable density in the planned corridor development and the NRO both are 100 dwelling units per acre. Because of the size of the property, the maximum they could have on that parcel of land is it's 0.41, so the maximum number of dwelling units they can have is 41. The allowable height is 110 feet, which is approximately 10 stories. They're requesting through the conditional use permit, because that is the only mechanism by which they can get the residential density that is required in these areas. They could do commercial straight all the way. However, we do require 3 uses along that corridor. One of which has to be residential. So they have to go through the conditional use permit, they have to include residential, and they have to go through the conditional use process, which is why they're appearing before you today to approve the 29 dwelling units. Last night, staff was privileged to attend a community town hall that was hosted by Councilwoman Estime Irvin, and had a great feedback from the neighbors on their concerns and issues. Go ahead, the next one, Tom. And so that's the request. What staff is proposing in this particular development, what they are proposing is a 7-story, remember it's maximum 10-story. They're proposing 7-story, 27 residential dwelling units and 2 live-work units for a total of 29 residential units. 4 of those, actually the live-work on the affordable workforce housing units, they'll be deed restricted because they are required to do 3 uses. We have to make sure that the 2 live-work units, which is a separate kind of use, is deed restricted. Our affordable workforce housing is deed restricted. And that is a very specific type of housing unit that for affordable workforce, it's not your typical affordable housing. It's working folks from 60 to 140% of median income. They have to, be working folks that work in the community or this development will also include 460 square feet of retail area. The applicant is proposing to use it as either a gym or a yoga studio. It will be on the 2nd floor. They're going to talk to you a little bit more in detail about it. We do require that all new development in the city, particularly those developments that are requesting a conditional use permit, must be either LEED certified or an equivalent national green requirement. We do know that there's some other things that they're going to be providing as far as impact fees that will be generated and increased ad valorem taxes. At this point now, the net increase is $112,000 annually in ad valorem taxes. Next. As part of our review, we looked at everything from all the LDRs that govern development in the city, along with some things that are not necessarily in our LDRs, but we try to protect our residential neighbors, especially in areas like this where, as you all know, our planning commissioners are very familiar. We have many areas in the city that we have single family that's directly abutting our commercial areas. So we try to work with developers closely to mitigate beyond what the code requires to try to buffer impact to the greatest extent practical to our residents. And with this one, and they'll talk to you a little bit more in detail. As I mentioned to you, they're going to have to go to City Council. They'll go to DRC after they go through the next phase of this project. Would be going after you, as you know. They go to City Council to get final approval for the conditional use permit. The actual how it's finally designed and laid out, including entrance points and exit points and the landscape buffering, those details will work themselves through the DRC approval process. We put some conditions now, and I'm speaking to you all. Some of you already know this. Some of you, like Dr. Besson, this is his first meeting with us. We put conditions here. Staff starts with conditions, our recommended conditions, and then you all have an opportunity to recommend additional conditions. And then once it goes to City Council, they're the ultimate decision makers of granting it, maybe even adding more conditions at City Council level. Once they get, assuming they get approval at City Council, the next phase of that would be to go to the Development Review Committee, where all the details are worked out. Do you have enough? Do you have, all of your shrubs versus your tree ratio? All the different minutia details that they'll work through those issues at the DRC approval level. And then once the DRC, or Development Review Committee, approves their site plan, because they have to go through that, work through all of the concurrency issues, the septic, sanitary sewer, water connections, all those other things that become a little bit more granular at that level. Then that site plan goes to City Council for final approval. And that site plan is what will govern this development through its lifetime. And because it's a conditional use permit, they can't change anything unless it's very, very minor, without going back to the public and going back through public hearing process. So we do recommend, and the staff report has some others. These are some of the highlights. And you'll hear a little bit more about how they're going to deal with the sidewalk. They're required on our major corridors. All development is required to install a 10-foot wide sidewalk. If we don't have enough easement area on the city's right of way, then they have to put it on their property. And I believe this is the case in this situation. The live work and the affordable workforce housing units will be deed restricted. And any home occupancies that occur in those live work units will require a certificate of use prior to operating. There are other conditions, as I noted in my staff report, but these are the highlights. Next. The next steps will then, as I mentioned to you before, it will be this site plan then gets a really detailed review through the Development Review Committee and goes back to City Council for final site plan approval. Once they get final City Council, then they can go to the building department and obtain their building permits. With that is the end of staff's presentation. The applicant is here to make a presentation to you. And then I'm assuming after that, as our typical, we will open it up for public for the folks that have joined us today. And we also have some comments that we have received, at least one comment that we've received via email, and I'm sure there's some others in the chat box that Ms. Marlene will read to you at that time. But at this point, we'd like to introduce the development team who would like to make a presentation to you.
Very good. Sir, if you could go ahead and state your name and address for the record. And you have been sworn in, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Before you get started, would you let Marlene know when to change the slides for you, please?
Okay.
Oh, okay. When we are doing the change of slides. Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, member of the Planning and Zoning Board, city representative, neighbors. My name is Gabriel Boano. I am the owner of the property and the developer of the property. I am here with the project manager, Florencia Montechiarini, and our architects, Mauro and Carmen. If you can proceed for the next slide.
Can you give us your address of record, sir, please?
Of course, yes. I live on 9434 West Broadview Drive on Bay Harbor Island, 33154.
Thank you, sir.
Do you have to use your mouse?
Okay, Debbie mentioned before, the property is located on 475 Northeast 125th Street and 470 Northeast 126th Street, just across the street from the Presidential Supermarket. Basically, this is the location of the property. Next, please. Also, like Debbie mentioned before, we are located on zone C3. That is what we try to express on this slide. Actually, the use that we have on this property right now, one is a single family home, and the other one, looking to 125th, is a vacant land. Next, please. Well, here is basically the same like Debbie explained before. We are allowed to have 41 units. We are asking for 29 unit residential component. The height that we can go is 110 feet. I think we are on 65 feet high on this building. We are not maximize the full development that we can do on this property. Next, please. We are proposing to have 29 units. The 15% of these units is going to be affordable housing, workforce housing. 75% of the units is going to be a regular market rate. The building is going to have 7 stories. We are proposing to have a gym and yoga studio that is going to be around 460,000 square feet. On the first level, we have mainly the parking garage and the access for the building. Also, we have a smart drop box for the residents of the building. Next, please. But here is the facade that is looking to the street 126. What we try to work with the staff is to get a big setback from the neighbors, because we know that we have next to us a residential component, and we almost leave a huge setback to alleviate the view for the neighbors. And also the image that we are proposing on this front is more residential. Actually, if we can see the next slides, we can explain a little bit about the floor plans of the units. Here is a little bit more the description of the property that we said before. We have a 39 parking space on the first floor. We are proposing 29 units. The units mix is different alternative. We have a 1 bedroom, 1 bath with 750 square feet. We have a 2 bedroom, 2 bath that they are 855 feet. We have 1 bedroom, 1 bath of 560 square feet. And 1 bedroom, 1 bath a little bit bigger, 570 feet. We have another component that is a 1 bedroom, 1 bath with them that is 755 square feet. 2 bedroom, 2 bath that they are 840 feet. And 3 bedroom, 2 bath, they are 155 square feet apartments. And the units that we are proposed to be work living are the bigger one. They have a 1,155 square feet. Like I mentioned before, the retail space that we are proposing is 406 square feet, that they can be a gym or yoga studio. This particular use, they can be used for our tenant, and also they can be open to the public, whatever is going to be the use to determine. Also, we propose a bike rack. We like to have incentive our tenants to use a little bit more the bike road. I think it's something that the city is trying to propose. And we are working on that level too. And we are proposing on our building also 460 square feet of conference room. We think the component of living work is something that they can be used in the future, and maybe it can be increasing. And within the conference room, they can be an amenity for these potential tenants. Next, please. On these slides, we present the requirements by the city and the promenade on the front of our building. Then we are contemplated to use the bench, the trash can, the bike rack stop that they can be used. And also we like to have more landscaping around the entrance. Next, please. On the facade, we are trying to propose this idea to the MoCA museum. We love the idea to work on our frontage with a mural that they can be designed by a local artist. Maybe they can be exchanged every year, and to try to propose and emphasize the downtown renovation and revitalization that the city is working on it, to incorporate on our property a mural, and hope that this is something that is going to be attractive for the people that they live on the area and for our art. Next, please. These slides where we try to show to you guys is the big setback that we are trying to express on our design with our residential component. Even we can build on this 126 feet setback that we have next to our neighbors. We propose and we decide to leave all this space open and use only for parking. We went through different stage of design. Originally, we used to have a units on this area, and based on setback and other regulation, we prefer to do a little bit higher the building and to incorporate all the units to be more retired for the housing product. After the setback, we have a residential component that is a little bit more traditional. We also, on the design of the unit, we face into the residential the rooms, not the living or not the areas, to try to minimize all the noise. And on the main building, this is how we call, we have the areas that they are more residential, working, living, the gym, all the amenities for the building is looking to 125th. That is what we think is more recommend for the property. Next, please. Now I'm going to turn to the architect that they can explain a little more the detail of the project.
Good afternoon. Carmen Diaz, 1901 Northwest South River Drive, Miami, Florida 33125. I am the architect of the project, and I am very happy to present to the members of the board and the attendees of this meeting this project. We are very excited to bring something new and fresh to this neighborhood. We are glad that we have Mr. Buono as our client, because he has worked very diligently with the city, trying to commit himself to bring a very nice building, complying with every requirement that the city has been asked for him to do. I don't know if you can zoom in that map that you have right there, but I don't know if it's possible to zoom in the slide.
Unfortunately, no, it isn't possible.
Okay, the orange rectangle right there, it's our site. It faces the 125th Street, which is a very commercial area. Our building sits on half of that rectangle, facing that street. It means that we are not even half of that lot is empty, and the other half of the lot is our building is seated in the other half of the lots. We are only 7 stories high, which is not at all a high-rise building. To be a high-rise building, have to be over 75 feet in height. So the building it's a small building. It only has 29 apartment dwelling units, and it only sits in half of the lot of our property. And that half faces the 125th Street commercial. With at both sides, we have other 2 multifamily buildings. So we are very inconsistency with the uses that this area has. In the back, what we have is an empty area, only with parking on grade. And the exit, I don't know if we have a bigger size that one, right? No. Okay. So the parking and the vehicular maneuvering is through 125th Street. That's the vehicular entrance, and then we exit through the back. It's one single movement for the cars. There's no turning in back and forth. It's a very straightforward and very clean movement for the cars. 29 units, they won't add to the traffic at all. According to the traffic study, it's only a couple of cars during the morning peak hours and a couple of in the afternoon. So that the traffic it won't impact at all the residents in the residents on 126. And actually, that the turnaround the turnaround. Our building will touch only a small piece of that turnaround, not even the full circle. You can go to the next slide, please. In this slide, is here just because we're showing that our building it sits between the 2 multifamily existing buildings. Go to the next, please. If you go to the next, I would like to go through the floor plans to explain a little bit more about the building. If you can go to the next. Next. Where the floor plans? Where are the floor plans? Next, please. Sorry. Okay, yes. I'm going to describe, the other one, the first one, the previous one.